Christmas on Deck 9 of the Titan Crescent Station looked less like a family holiday and more like a billionaire hostage situation with decorative lights. Giant holographic snowflakes drifted through the luxury apartment, while robotic reindeer floated near the ceiling singing Old Earth carols in 6 languages. Somewhere in the background, a drunk uncle was arguing with an AI bartender about whether eggnog counted as dairy terrorism. And right in the center of the chaos sat me, wearing sweatpants that technically belonged to my older brother. Nobody had noticed yet. That was honestly my biggest achievement of the year. "Look who finally woke up," my sister said the moment I walked into the dining room. Everybody clap. "The unemployed have joined us." My brother Marcus raised his wine glass dramatically. "A Christmas miracle." I gave them both the finger while stealing shrimp off someone's plate. "I'm not unemployed. I'm between opportunities." "You got fired from a virtual casino," Marcus said. "The machine accused me of cheating. You trained an AI hamster to count cards. That hamster deserved freedom." Mom pointed a serving spoon at me from the other end of the table. "Don't touch the expensive shrimp unless you contributed financially to Christmas dinner." I slowly put the shrimp back, then immediately took 2 more when she turned around. That was the kind of relationship we had. The Titan Crescent apartment overlooked the entire station skyline. Thousands of ships drifted outside massive observation windows while red and gold holiday lights wrapped around nearby docking towers. Somewhere far below, rich tourists were probably ice skating on artificial snow while poor workers cleaned up after them for minimum galactic wage. Meanwhile, my family sat around a table worth more than most small planets. Marcus had become some decorated military commander after the war near the Orion border. My sister Lyra owned 3 alien nightclubs and legally married a prince from some moon colony mostly because she thought royal titles sounded funny during arguments. And me? I once got banned from an online cooking simulator for starting digital fires. Mom loved bringing that up. "You know," Lyra said while sipping glowing blue wine, "I saw a documentary about primitive Earth sloths today." Marcus nodded seriously. "Did they remind you of your brother?" "They moved faster." Everyone laughed. Even Grandma nearly choked on mashed potatoes. I hated that part. Not the insults. Those were normal. It was the fact they weren't entirely wrong. At 20 years old, I still lived in one of Mom's guest apartments. I survived mostly on family money, bad investments, and the occasional streaming channel where strangers paid to watch me fail at games. My entire life plan depended heavily on avoiding responsibility long enough for people to stop expecting things from me. Honestly, it had been working beautifully until Christmas. The front door slid open halfway through dinner. A tall alien woman stepped inside carrying another stack of wrapped gifts in muscular gray-blue arms. Her dark silver hair was braided tightly against one side of her head, and a long scar crossed her neck like someone once tried to remove it with a chainsaw. Every room somehow became quieter when she entered. Mostly because she looked capable of killing everyone there with a spoon. "Oh good," Mom said. "Nara made it." Nara nodded politely. "The delivery drones kept getting distracted by fireworks." Marcus leaned toward me. "You should ask her out." I snorted. "Why? So she can reject me in multiple galaxies? She might enjoy charity work." Nara worked station maintenance in our sector. Technically her species, the Variki, were famous warriors with terrifying military histories. But she spent most days repairing damaged gravity systems and yelling at rich people who flushed illegal substances into station plumbing. The first time I met her, she threatened to throw me off a balcony because I parked my hover bike in a maintenance corridor. I'd been slightly attracted to her ever since. Mom waved her toward the table. "Sit down. You helped carry half these presents." Nara sat beside me, which immediately ruined my ability to act like a functional life form. "You're staring," she said calmly. "I'm socially nervous." I noticed. Marcus nearly spit out his drink laughing. Dinner continued with the usual chaos. Uncle Ren accidentally drank decorative candle fuel thinking it was liquor. Grandma flirted aggressively with one of the waiter drones. Lyra spent 20 straight minutes explaining why owning nightclub chains technically made her an artist. Then Mom stood up and clinked her glass. Everyone instantly quieted. That should have warned me something evil was coming. As all of you know, Mom announced dramatically, this year I introduced a special family competition. My stomach dropped. Competition? What competition? Marcus grinned immediately. Lyra covered her mouth, trying not to laugh. Even Grandma looked guilty. Oh no. Mom reached beneath the table and pulled out a stack of golden envelopes. You've all worked very hard this year, she continued proudly. So tonight rewards will be distributed accordingly. Marcus got the first envelope. Inside was a luxury vacation pass to the oceans of Vega Prime. He screamed loud enough to scare the reindeer drones. Lyra opened hers next and found keys to a brand new solar cruiser. Grandma received enough casino credits to financially destabilize 3 moons. Even Uncle Ren got a rare bottle of pre-war whiskey despite technically still being on probation in 2 systems. Then Mom smiled at me. That smile terrified me more than alien invasions. Finally, she handed over my envelope. The entire table leaned forward. I opened it slowly. Inside was a tiny handwritten coupon. 1 free reality check. Silence. Then absolute explosive laughter. Marcus fell sideways out of his chair. Lyra started crying. Grandma slapped the table, yelling, I told you she'd finally do it! Even Nara covered her mouth, trying not to smile. I forced a laugh. Okay, wow. Very funny. But something felt wrong. Not funny wrong. Planned wrong. I looked around the table again. Everybody already knew. Every single person here knew about this competition except me. Mom took a sip of wine calmly. You can redeem the coupon whenever you're ready. For what exactly? She smiled. That depends on whether you're finally tired of being the family joke. For the first time all night, nobody laughed. A few minutes later, I stood alone near the balcony outside the apartment, staring at station lights drifting across space while cold artificial snow floated around me. The balcony door opened behind me. Nara stepped outside quietly. You survived dinner, she said. Barely. She leaned beside the railing. Your family is insane. You noticed that too? In my culture, half this table would have challenged each other to combat before dessert. Honestly, that sounds healthier. She laughed softly. It surprised me how nice that sound was. Inside, my family continued celebrating while music echoed through the apartment. Nara glanced sideways at me. You know, she said carefully, everyone in there thinks you're a joke. Yeah. I got that part. But jokes usually hide something. I looked at the stupid coupon still sitting in my hand. And for the first time in years, I started wondering if everybody else had been right about me all along. The next morning I woke up face down on my couch with half a candy cane stuck to my forehead and 17 unread messages from the family group chat. Marcus. Good morning, reality boy. Lyra. Mom framed your coupon. Grandma. I laughed so hard I threw my back out. Uncle Ren somehow sent 6 blurry photos of his own feet. I hated all of them equally. I dragged myself toward the kitchen while still wearing yesterday's shirt. The apartment smelled like stale pizza and bad decisions. Somewhere in the corner, my gaming console flashed a warning that I'd played 38 hours this week. Honestly, low numbers for December. I'd opened the fridge and found exactly 1 expired yogurt and a bottle labeled "Do not drink this again." I didn't remember what happened last time. That was concerning. My tablet suddenly beeped with an incoming family notification. Mom had uploaded the official competition scoreboard. I stared at it in horror. Apparently this family competition had lasted an entire year. Marcus earned points for military leadership, charity missions, and saving diplomats during hostage crisis. Lyra gained points for expanding her businesses, mentoring employees, and somehow settling a nightclub knife fight without police involvement. Grandma received points for community outreach, which I strongly suspected meant illegal gambling. Then I found my category. Yearly personal achievements, 0 points. Below it was an actual list. Survived 14-hour gaming marathon. Ordered takeout 311 times. Attempted cryptocurrency scam accidentally against himself. Set kitchen drone on fire. Lied during job interview about knowing. Advanced plumbing warfare. Slept through cousin's wedding reception. I kept scrolling. It somehow got worse. Used emergency savings to buy limited edition hoverchair. Sold hoverchair 3 days later for snack money. Spent entire month pretending back injury to avoid helping move furniture. At the bottom, Mom had written, potential detected. Effort missing. I stared at the screen for a long time. Not because it hurt. Mostly because it was weird seeing your entire existence summarized like a police report written by disappointed relatives. My apartment door buzzed. I opened it expecting another family member arriving to mock me. Instead, Nara stood there holding a toolbox. You look terrible, she said. Thank you. I've been practicing. She stepped inside without asking permission, immediately scanning the disaster surrounding me. Empty food containers covered half the room. Clothes hung from furniture like abandoned surrender flags. Nara slowly looked at me. Did a tornado die in here? I call it organized depression. She kicked aside a pizza box. Station maintenance reported a smell coming from this apartment. That could mean anything. It means your sink is growing lifeforms. Fair point. While she repaired the sink, I sat nearby pretending not to stare at her arms every 5 seconds. Variki women were naturally taller and stronger than humans. Nara moved like someone constantly prepared for violence, even while fixing pipes. You really read the scoreboard? She asked. Unfortunately. And apparently my biggest contribution to society was almost burning down a noodle stand. You did burn down the noodle stand. In my defense, the chef insulted Earth movies. Nara laughed quietly while tightening something beneath the sink. I leaned against the counter. So your species really trains warriors from childhood? Yes. And now you fix toilets. We also kill pirates occasionally. That sounds slightly cooler. She climbed back to her feet and wiped grease from her hands. You humans have strange ideas about success, says the terrifying space warrior fixing plumbing. Her eyes narrowed playfully. Plumbing is important. Without us, rich people drown in their own waste. That might improve my family, honestly. For some reason she smiled at that. It hit me suddenly how different she was from everyone I knew. My family treated life like a non-stop competition. Nara treated everything practically directly. No fake politeness. No pretending. Just honesty sharp enough to cut through walls. You know, she said, your family insults you constantly. They do it lovingly. I cannot tell if humans are emotionally advanced or mentally damaged. Probably damaged. She studied me for a second too long. Why do you let them believe you are useless? I laughed once. Because they're correct. No, she said immediately. Lazy is not the same as useless. That sentence bothered me for the rest of the day. Mostly because nobody had ever separated those things before. By evening I'd made a terrible decision. Self-improvement. Specifically overnight self-improvement. Which, in hindsight, was exactly the kind of lazy shortcut mentality causing my problems. Still, I became determined to reinvent myself immediately. The first attempt involved the gym. It ended with me trapped beneath a training machine while 2 elderly alien women recorded videos for social media. The second attempt involved getting a temporary job at a cargo dock. Apparently yelling, "Space muscles!" while lifting boxes is unprofessional. I lasted 43 minutes. Then I tried becoming an online motivational influencer. That went badly almost instantly. Listen up! I shouted dramatically into camera. Success is about confidence. Behind me, my chair collapsed. The live stream audience increased by 6,000 viewers. Most of them were laughing. By the third day, even my family started taking bets on how long my transformation arc, would survive. Marcus cornered me during lunch near the station market. "So what's the current career plan?" he asked. "Fitness guru? Dock worker? Professional embarrassment?" "I'm exploring opportunities. You got banned from the gym. They overreacted to one small vomiting incident. You threw up on a machine worth more than your apartment. Again. Overreaction." Meanwhile, my family group chat became psychological warfare. Lyra kept sending workout videos captioned, "You can do it, champ." Grandma mailed me protein powder labeled, "For weak bones." Mom said absolutely nothing, which somehow felt worse. Late one night, after another humiliating job failure, I found myself sitting beside Nara on the station rooftop maintenance deck. Ships drifted silently beyond us while artificial snow floated through neon lights below. "You are trying too hard," she said. "I'm trying for the first time. Same thing sometimes." I sighed heavily. Maybe my family's right. Maybe I'm just broken. Nara looked genuinely confused by that. "Broken things do not keep standing back up. That's because I don't have enough dignity to stay down." She laughed again. Then her expression softened slightly. "In Variki culture," she said quietly, "we admire humans for one reason." "What reason?" "You reinvent yourselves constantly. Your species fails loudly, but you keep trying again anyway." I stared at the city lights beneath us. Nobody in my family had ever described me as someone still trying. Only someone failing. Nara nudged my shoulder gently with hers. "You care more than you pretend." That tiny moment somehow hit harder than every insult from my family combined. Then my tablet buzzed again. Another family announcement from Mom. Final competition reward to be revealed at Christmas gala. Unanimous sibling vote required. Marcus immediately replied, "Not voting for him." Lyra, "Absolutely not." Grandma, "Can I vote against him twice?" I groaned loudly. Nara read the message over my shoulder. "What happens if they vote yes?" I swallowed. Mom's next message appeared underneath. "Winner receives equal ownership shares in the family interstellar company Empire." The rooftop suddenly felt very cold. Because I already knew something worse than losing. Nobody in my family believed I deserved a chance to win at all. The family Christmas gala looked less like a holiday celebration and more like a villain convention hosted by extremely rich people. Massive crystal chandeliers floated beneath the station dome while holographic snowstorms drifted across the ballroom ceiling. Alien politicians, military officers, celebrities, and business executives filled the room wearing outfits expensive enough to feed small planets. Somewhere near the dessert table, a three-eyed senator was aggressively flirting with the statue because he thought it was a performer. Honestly, he still had more dignity than Uncle Ren. I stood near the wall adjusting the collar of my borrowed suit, while Marcus laughed directly into his drink. "You clean up surprisingly well," he said. "Like a raccoon wearing formal wear." "Thanks. You look emotionally unavailable as always." "That's military posture. Pretty sure that's unresolved trauma." Nara stood nearby in dark silver formal armor that made every person in the ballroom stare at her when she moved. Variki's ceremonial clothing apparently combined romance and intimidation into one terrifying package. I couldn't stop looking at her. Unfortunately, Marcus noticed immediately. "Oh my God!" he whispered. "You actually like her." "I do not. You just stared at her long enough to forget your own name. That happens naturally." Nara walked toward us carrying 2 drinks. She handed me one calmly. Marcus grinned. "Careful. He falls in love every time a woman makes eye contact. I'm standing right here." "Yes," Marcus said. Embarrassingly. Before I could threaten him physically, Mom stepped onto the main stage near the orchestra platform. The ballroom quieted instantly. Even rich people respected Mom. Mostly because she once bankrupted a trade corporation during a divorce. "Welcome, everyone," Mom announced proudly. "Tonight we celebrate another successful year for the family business." Applause echoed through the ballroom. Behind her, Giant holographic displays showed company profits, expansion routes, and trade agreements across multiple star systems. I understood almost none of it. My contribution to the family empire mostly involved accidentally using company shuttles for food deliveries. Mom continued speaking while servers carried around glowing drinks and elaborate holiday desserts. That's when I noticed something weird. Near the far security corridor, two men wearing catering uniforms were arguing beside a maintenance door. Except neither of them carried food. One slipped a strange metal device into the wall panel. Then both disappeared into the crowd. I frowned. Nara, I muttered quietly. Do catering staff normally tamper with security systems? She turned immediately serious. No. For the first time all evening, that weird instinct in my stomach stopped feeling like anxiety and started feeling dangerous. I think something's wrong, I said. Nara didn't laugh. That surprised me most. Together we slipped away from the ballroom into the maintenance corridors. Behind the gala floor, music thumped faintly through the walls while distant laughter echoed from expensive party rooms nearby. Nara crouched beside the security panel. This device is broadcasting false system data, she said quietly. Meaning? Meaning someone wants security blind. Well, that sounds aggressively illegal. She glanced at me sharply. This is sabotage. My first instinct was panic. My second instinct was finding Mom immediately. Unfortunately, when we tried warning Marcus and Lyra, both reacted exactly how expected. Marcus folded his arms. You discovered a blinking wall and now think you're a spy? Lyra laughed into her drink. Last week he thought his toaster was monitoring him. It was making noises. It was toasting bread. Nobody listened. Because of course they didn't. I'd spent years acting irresponsible. Turns out people remember things like that during emergencies. Nara grabbed my arm once we stepped away from the crowd again. I believe you, she said. Those 3 words hit harder than they should have. We followed the sabotaged systems deeper beneath the gala levels. Security alerts slowly started appearing across station networks, small glitches at first. Camera failures. Gravity flickers. Communications lag. Someone was preparing something big. Unfortunately, sneaking through restricted luxury hallways became difficult once security patrols increased. So naturally, we made terrible decisions. At one point, we disguised ourselves as exotic holiday dancers to avoid guards. To be fair, it worked. For almost 6 full minutes. Then Uncle Ren saw us. He screamed, "That's my nephew!" loud enough to alert half the building. We ran through 3 separate party halls while drunk executives applauded, thinking it was interactive entertainment. At some point, Nara grabbed my hand while dragging me through a service corridor. That tiny moment nearly killed me more effectively than the sabotage plot. You're smiling, she said while running. I might be having a stress-induced romance episode. This is not the correct time. When is the correct time? A sudden explosion shook the corridor. Probably not now, I admitted. We finally discovered the real plan beneath the main gala platform. A rival corporation had planted signal disruptors throughout the station's systems. Once activated, they'd crash navigation controls during the gala live stream, tanking company stock values publicly while triggering panic across transport sectors. Corporate sabotage. Holiday edition. The problem was nobody upstairs believed me enough to evacuate guests. So somehow the responsibility landed on me. Which was horrifying. Nara crouched beside the final disruptor device. Can you disable their security loop? I stared at the system screen. Maybe. You sound uncertain. I learned hacking from illegal gaming tournaments and one extremely lonely summer. Human males are deeply concerning. But once I started studying the system, something clicked. Games. Patterns. Prediction. The sabotage network operated almost exactly like strategy simulations I'd wasted years playing. For the first time in my life, useless knowledge suddenly became useful. Oh my God! I whispered. These idiots designed this like a combat puzzle. Nara blinked. What? I moved through the controls rapidly, rerouting signals while alarms flashed around us. They built predictable pathways. Look, if I trigger this relay manually, their backup system overcorrects. You understand this? I spent 6 years avoiding real life professionally. Her eyes widened slightly. Then she smiled. Not mockingly. Proudly. That nearly distracted me enough to explode the station. Together we shut down 3 disruptors before security teams finally arrived. Unfortunately, one device activated early, triggering temporary gravity failure across the ballroom. Chaos erupted instantly. Rich aliens floated screaming through the air, clutching champagne glasses and expensive pets. One diplomat vomited directly onto a mayor while drifting upside down near the ceiling. Grandma somehow used zero gravity to cheat at cards. Even during disaster, she remained committed to crime. Mom shouted orders across the ballroom while Marcus coordinated evacuations. That's when I saw the rival executives attempting escape near the docking elevators. Without thinking, I grabbed a microphone from the main stage. "Attention, everyone!" I yelled loudly. The ballroom slowly quieted. I pointed directly toward the fleeing executives. "Those idiots just tried sabotaging the station to manipulate stock prices." Complete silence. One executive bolted toward the exit. Unfortunately, Nara tackled him through a decorative Christmas tree before he reached the elevator. The ballroom exploded into chaos again. Security swarmed the suspects while cameras captured everything live across the station network. Marcus stared at me like I'd suddenly transformed into a different species. Lyra blinked repeatedly. "How the hell did you figure this out?" I opened my mouth confidently. Then immediately ruined it. "Honestly, I thought I was hallucinating at first." Mom stood near the stage watching me carefully. For the first time in years, she looked genuinely proud. Then Nara walked back toward me through falling holographic snow. Before I could process what was happening, she grabbed my face and kissed me directly in front of the entire ballroom. Every single family member froze. Marcus nearly dropped his drink. Grandma yelled, "Finally!" And somewhere deep in the chaos of screaming guests, flashing alarms, and floating Christmas decorations, I realized something terrifying. For the first time in my entire life, I didn't feel like the family joke anymore. The morning after the gala felt strangely quiet. For the first time in years, nobody in the family group chat had insulted me before breakfast. Honestly, that worried me more than the sabotage attempt. I walked into Mom's apartment expecting the usual chaos. Christmas music played softly through the penthouse while robotic servants carried trays of food across the dining room. Artificial snow drifted outside the massive windows overlooking Titan Crescent Station. And every single family member stopped talking the moment I entered. Marcus slowly lowered his coffee cup. Lyra stared at me like I'd suddenly grown a second head. Grandma narrowed her eyes suspiciously. "Why are you standing differently?" "I don't know what that means." "You have posture now." "I don't trust it." "Fair enough." Then everyone noticed Nara walking in behind me. The silence somehow became worse. Marcus leaned toward me carefully. "So, that kiss last night." "Oh my God!" I muttered immediately. Lyra slammed both hands on the table. "You kissed the space warrior in front of half the station." "She kissed me first." Nara sat calmly beside me. "Correct." Grandma pointed at her dramatically. "I like this one." Mom sipped coffee while pretending not to enjoy the situation. Unfortunately, Uncle Ren ruined everything seconds later. "So are you two mating now?" I nearly choked to death. Nara blinked once. "Eventually, perhaps." The entire table exploded. Marcus screamed into his napkin. Lyra fell sideways laughing. Even Mom looked like she regretted being alive. Meanwhile, I sat there reconsidering every life decision leading to this breakfast. Nara looked confused by the reaction. "Was that answer inappropriate?" "Yes," I whispered aggressively. "In Variki culture, direct communication is respectful. In human culture, my grandmother is now planning our wedding." Grandma already had her tablet out. "I'm checking venue prices." Mom finally raised her hand for silence before the conversation fully collapsed into madness. As entertaining as this is, she said calmly, we should address the more important matter. Everyone looked toward her, including me. Mom reached beside her chair and lifted another golden envelope onto the table. My stomach tightened immediately. Not another one. I think, Mom said carefully, you've finally earned this. Nobody laughed this time. That felt stranger than the insults ever did. Slowly I opened the envelope. Inside was an official ownership contract for equal shares in the family company Empire. I honestly thought it was fake at first. Then I saw the signatures. Marcus leaned back in his chair. You're welcome, by the way. I looked up sharply. You voted yes? You saved the company. Lyra pointed at me with her fork. Don't get emotional about it. We still think you're an idiot. Comforting. But, she admitted reluctantly, you're apparently a useful idiot. That might have been the nicest thing she'd ever said to me. I looked toward Mom again. You really meant all this? She nodded slowly. The reality check envelope was never punishment. I frowned. Then what was it? Mom leaned back in her chair watching me carefully. You spent years hiding behind jokes because everyone kept rescuing you from consequences. Every time you failed, someone fixed it for you. Nobody argued. Mostly because she was right. Mom continued quietly. The competition wasn't about success. It was about effort. Your siblings failed plenty this year too. The difference is they kept trying anyway. I stared down at the contract in my hands. You excluded me on purpose. Yes. That's harsh. So was watching you waste your life. That sentence hit hard. Not cruel hard. Honest hard. For a few seconds the room stayed unusually quiet. Then Marcus ruined the emotional moment immediately. To be fair, he said, you did once try paying rent with collectible gaming swords. They were limited edition. You cried when they depreciated. Because the market collapsed unfairly. Nara laughed beside me while I glared at everyone. And weirdly, the teasing felt different now. Not cruel. Just family. Mom slid a second paper across the table. Your apartment has also been upgraded. I blinked. Wait, seriously? You can no longer live in what authorities described as a biological hazard zone. That report was exaggerated. Nara looked at me. Your refrigerator contained moving meat. It was evolving. Marcus groaned loudly. Please never reproduce. Unfortunately, that sentence triggered another disaster. Grandma immediately looked toward Nara. Actually, how does reproduction work for your species? I buried my face in my hands. Nara answered completely seriously. Traditionally, Variki courtship involves ceremonial combat. The entire table froze. Marcus blinked slowly. Combat? Yes. Lyra nearly spit out her drink laughing. Oh, this is perfect. I looked up carefully. What kind of combat exactly? Nara thought about it. Usually endurance fighting. Sometimes blade rituals. I stared at her in horror. You people flirt with knives? We are very passionate. Mom nodded approvingly. Good. Everyone turned toward her. She took another sip of coffee calmly. Maybe getting punched regularly will finally keep him motivated. The whole table erupted again. Even I started laughing. And that was the weirdest part about all of it. A week earlier I would have taken every joke personally. Every insult felt like proof I'd never mattered to anyone. Now it just felt like noise around something stronger. Because for the first time in my life, I'd actually done something worth respecting. Not accidentally. Not as a joke. Not because my family rescued me afterward. I earned it. Later that evening, after breakfast chaos finally settled down, I stood outside on the balcony overlooking the station's skyline beside Nara. Ships drifted silently through distant stars while Christmas fireworks exploded across nearby docking towers. You seem different, she said softly. I think I'm terrified. That is normal after growth. You make personal development sound like a medical condition. In some species it is. I laughed quietly. Then looked down at the old reality check coupon still sitting in my pocket beside the ownership contract. Funny thing was, Mom had been right. The coupon really did bounce back with interest. Nara slipped her hand into mine. So, she asked casually, would you like to visit my homeworld after the holidays? I glanced sideways at her. Is this before or after the ceremonial stabbing? She smiled slowly. That depends how serious our relationship becomes. Terrifying answer. You still said yes with your face. Unfortunately, she wasn't wrong. Far below us, the station glowed with Christmas lights while my insane family argued loudly inside the apartment about whether alien combat weddings required insurance coverage. And standing there beside the dangerous, beautiful woman who somehow believed in me before I believed in myself, I realized something important. Maybe the family joke had finally grown up. At least a little. Probably not enough to survive knife flirting. But definitely a little.